The Moth, the Mountain, and the Middle-Aged Man, a novel about novelty. This book is dedicated to those who are just out of reach. This book is dedicated to those who are imprisoned and unable to commune with the soil. Come, dear reader, be with me here now. Taste the grass mingled with our saliva. Let this fluid conduit between us and the Great Mother come. Come. It is time. To Cliff, Sean, and Ken, to all those who could see no other path than to take their own life. To Kyle, who lost his life to a roadside bomb over there in Afghanistan. To Chad, whose heart is still over there with his fallen brothers in arms. May we all find ourselves together. This is the story of a middle-aged man who is trying to answer one simple question. How can I live with myself? This is the story of a son who returns to his father. The story of a writer who attempts to tell his own story from a compassionate heart. The story of an editor as he gently and patiently reads through his own autobiographical work in effort to accept himself. This is the story of a man who attempts to look at himself honestly. It's a story about making peace with the sometimes traumatic initiation ceremonies that life offers. This is the story of an author who struggles with what it means to die that his reader may live. This is the story of a 21-day real-time writing project which is embarked upon with the assistance of sacred medicines. This is the story of a middle-aged man who reaches out for help. And this is how our story begins, with a distress call. It is early one Wednesday morning in December. Can you see him there, dear reader? He sits on the bathroom floor, cross-legged, on a thick blanket. He types on his laptop. The laptop is perched upon a plastic milk crate. Our middle-aged man has eaten some psychedelic mushrooms. But this time, instead of allowing himself to be folded into the soil, he begins typing. There he is, dear reader. Can you see him now? There he is. He's writing an email to two friends, a husband and wife who own a publishing company. He plans to send them a draft of his already written autobiography, but he doesn't. He withholds. Instead, he starts a new story. A story that begins now with the writing of this email to his two new friends who just happen to own a small publishing company, Muse Harbor. Chapter 1, A Distress Call. The Great Religions. The great religions are the ships, poets, the lifeboats. Every sane person I know has jumped overboard. That is good for business, isn't it, Hafiz? A poem by Hafiz, translation Ladinsky. Day 1, 5:12 a.m. The email began like this. Dear Eileen and Dave. Dave and Eileen, I won't struggle with the patriarchy right now. We all understand the inadequacies of language and the suffering that comes with all form. I make this offering to you, two fellow human beings who have offered themselves as witnesses to my being. I make this offering to both of you with all respect, acknowledging my limited understanding of your personal sacred experience. I ask that these writings be considered a prayer that may transcend us all, a prayer to transcend these identities that we hold to, these sacred forms to which we say yes. I make this offering to life. I make this offering now, in real time, my hands managing these keys with significant effort, as I have accepted the God's flesh into my body this morning and have chosen to make peace with this gift of today. I make this offering to the universe, acknowledging whatever form of support you two are able to give, but expecting no more than what has already been received. I acknowledge that my support flows from the infinite well within. Also, I acknowledge my own need to receive support and blessings from the other, all those blessed forms from which I am currently individuated. I acknowledge your strength as a couple here on this earth, two beings that have coupled to continue in your willingness to bring life, to birth life into this world. I give you thanks, and I make this offering to you, this offering of my life, recognizing that the only one that can receive me is the one. Still, I make this offering to you both as sacred beings. I ask to be seen, I ask to be known, I ask to be held, as closely or as far away as your forms allow today. I acknowledge that you are two separate beings, individuated from one another, yet standing together. I ask for whatever shelter and sustenance you may be able to offer a fellow traveler today. I humbly ask for your friendship. I humbly ask again for your time. I humbly ask you to witness me on this journey. I humbly ask you to see what brought me here. I make this offering, this draft of my life, in full acceptance of all that is. Selah. Today I choose contact. Today I choose support. Today I choose love. Begin draft. The middle-aged man walked the chilled winter streets of a college cowtown on the eastern high plains of New Mexico. The little town was not the type that most people imagine when New Mexico comes to mind. It wasn't like Santa Fe or Taos, those quaint cities with mountains for their backdrop where accomplished artists open up shops to sell their creations to tourists. The far east of New Mexico, while still officially a part of the land of enchantment, has much more in common with the rolls and flats of the Texas Panhandle, the land of the scrub brush and awfully high winds. During his first spring there, 17 years ago, the sky filled with red dust and the ground bustled with tumbleweeds, some the size of Volkswagen Beetles, which rolled menacingly across Highway 70. The smaller weeds appeared to him as escaping convicts, dashing across the roads, leaping barbed wire fences to continue their manic jailbreak across the fields and over the horizon. As he drove his young family to the nearby neighboring city, he was unsure of what to do when encountering these tumbleweeds. Should he stay his course and collide with them, or slam on his brakes, risking the lives of his children in the back seat? It was often difficult to predict the path and speed of the rolling vegetation. He imagined himself to be Han Solo, navigating the Millennium Falcon through an asteroid field. No, he didn't actually imagine himself to be Han. That's the voice that the writer is trying to make peace with here. Literary voice, fictional voice. In all actuality, this particular young man was still Luke Skywalker. This young man never, ever imagined himself as Han. Although the Falcon was his dream to fly, he did love the Falcon. Yes, there was something in this young man that loved the Falcon very much, but this young man was Luke. If I can allow myself to comment on my own draft here. Is this part of the creative process? Is that how this is done? This email as a part of a greater creative effort? Consciousness, commenting, looking back on itself? The truth is that this young man had never, ever thought of himself as Han. Although, as mentioned before, he did love the Falcon. Luke. There was only Luke. This young man was Luke. But back to these tumbleweeds, which were real. Luke is trying to manage these tumbleweeds right now. Can I acknowledge Han and the Falcon and all of this? What about Leia and her distress call? She's the one who started this whole journey in the first place, right? More about Leia later. Okay, really, back to the tumbleweeds. The weeds on the Eastern High Plains. Yes, it's capitalized, Eastern High Plains. He assumed some of the weeds small enough that maybe it would be no big deal running over them. But they were still a problem as they caught in the grill or the undercarriage and scratched the red paint off his young family's Dodge Caravan, the same Caravan that would eventually catch fire at exactly mile marker 428 on this same highway just a few weeks from now. The red sky, high winds, and sense of isolation on these plains made him feel as if he'd been stationed in a colony on the far side of Mars. The far side of Mars? Mars' rotation does not have the same relationship to the Earth as the Moon, so there's really not a far side of Mars. You can't do the same thing with Mars that Pink Floyd did with the dark side of the Moon. The Moon, strange as it has often seemed to me, he is always facing the Earth with the same side. And what I'm wondering now is, could this anomaly somehow stand in support of the flat Earth theory? I mean, the only other planet-like object in the sky that I can see with my naked eye appears to me as a disk, not a sphere. When I first watched a flat Earth documentary, I was beside myself in confusion. I kept thinking that at any moment the narrator would reveal the film as some kind of test, measuring the audience's critical thinking skills, but the narrator did not do that. And that's okay, because it still functions as that test, even without revealing itself as such. What I'm saying is that the documentary really caused me to question myself. What do you really know about the nature of our universe that causes you to experience the Earth as round? I asked myself. The Flat Earth documentary is potentially a genius tool in that respect, and it worked that way for me without the narrator having to blow the cover. In fact, maybe it's more genius that way. Before we knock or ridicule the flat earthers, maybe we can at least ask ourselves these questions. What do I really know that causes me to believe that the Earth is round? And here's the next question. Why do people need to believe that the Earth is flat? I think that's a really important question. These types of questions are going to be important as we move forward in the evolution of this story. Back to the middle-aged man. 17 years had passed since that first spring and those dust storms. The slender man with the graying beard had recently purchased an olive drab jacket from Walmart, which he felt he needed for a poorly timed and insufficiently planned hitchhiking excursion in the dead of winter. Determined to make it to Oklahoma City to visit his mother, he got only as far as the West Texas town of Amarillo. He arrived there by the generosity of a truck driver named Mark, and then Joseph, and then Brad. At a truck stop in Amarillo, the middle-aged man climbed down from the cab of Mark's white semi. From there, he eventually found what appeared to be a suitable on-ramp from which to beg a ride. There he sat, cross-legged, with his cardboard sign on the banks of I-40. He remained there for an hour and a half, in the cold, the sun setting. He waited for a ride that was never offered. Frustrated by the law that prevented him from hitching on the interstate, unable to provide his own forward momentum, he resigned to the nearby Denny's and humbly turned his OKC sign face down when his younger friend Jerry called to check his well-being. "How are you, my friend? Are you okay? I'm worried about you," Jerry said. The middle-aged man decided to answer his young friend's questions with the true condition of his heart in that moment. "Yeah, Jerry, I'm okay, but I think I'm done. Could you come get me?" The middle-aged man had just witnessed a miracle come to pass in his own being. It came in the form of the seamless transition from determination to surrender without any hint of self-hate. The miracles, or rather the love that all miracles point to, that's the focus. There are no small miracles. There are no big miracles. There are no difficult miracles. There are no easy miracles. All miracles are the same size and difficulty level, flowing from the one heart of love. This is what A Course in Miracles had been teaching the middle-aged man. The 3 blue books had been gifted to him not long ago by 2 dear friends. Some were confused by the hitchhike attempt. His youngest daughter asked, "Is your car broken, Dad?" "No," he answered. "I've just always wanted to put on my pack and start walking. I was answering a call, trying to be true to myself. It was the most honest expression today. It was as genuine as I could allow myself to be." He had recently resigned his job, but after handing in his resignation letter, he found himself unable to work through his 2 weeks' notice. It was then suggested to him that it might be appropriate for him to be placed once again on medical leave. He accepted that offer. With gratefulness, he accepted all that was offered. End draft. Dave and Eileen. Eileen and Dave. Today, I choose to refrain from sending you a copy of my first autobiography, the one I had planned on sending with this email, but I do release this to you. I present to you both in all its fragility the birth of a new being, the unpredictable. This life form in all its potential novelty. I pray that this draft may hold both the suffering and the joy simultaneously. I heard that Alan Watts died an alcoholic. What does that mean? I honor his death, and I honor his life. I heard that Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche was abusive. I honor my teacher's teacher. And the Christ, what are his untold stories? I used to disqualify the wisdom message if the man didn't have his shit together, but I'm finding that's not at all how it works. I honor these beings who have come before me and all the unseen women who supported, who undergirded from the basement of the being, the honorable basement. And what is underneath the basement? The earth, the soil, the women beings who have connected me to the soils. I honor the strength of the woman I was bonded to for 20 years. I honor her path. I acknowledge the pain that I received from her as a gift of life. I acknowledge the pain that I gave to her. It is now her business how she works with that. I choose today to participate in this form. I acknowledge the Great Mother, the Universal Mother, the womb from which this consciousness arose. I acknowledge my earthly mother, the womb from which this flesh was birthed. I acknowledge their strength. Because of them, I am born again today. I attempt to know that which to me is unknowable, the birthing of a child, the holding of a child in the womb. I attempt to know the woman who above all else is looking for safety and warmth for her children, a safe nursery, the physical form of a nursery or a nest. Falcon's nest? Just a nest. Let's leave the myths out of this for a moment. Right now, this is primal, this is biology, this is the coming forth of life, this is the witnessing of what can only be born of the upside down cross, turning form on its head, dare I say, born of the upside down symbol, even to the release of the form or the letting go of all the form, which is ultimately the death that we all experience, that which was more knowable in us before men, the masculine, tried to conquer the all through conquest and then tried to contain the all in the conquest stories which came afterward. Was Christ a feminine soul in a masculine body? Is gender truly breaking down? Where only attraction is found at the base, the same attraction that matter after the Big Bang held for itself? Yes, this same attraction in the heart of a mother, which I acknowledge may be unknowable to me in this form, but which I say yes to writing about and possibly knowing more intimately for the sake of my own well-being and possibly the well-being of those others I encounter, as I say yes to form and all the glories and limitations of its being in me, the Christ, the resurrected one, the serpent, The serpent that is longing to make peace with the world. Is that true? I cannot know the serpent, can I? Yes, dare I say, the serpent that lives in me. Can I make peace with this one? Can I make peace with an earthly serpent, the one who bore my children, my offspring? Can I make peace with her? Resume draft. That's what happened next. The man with the beard. He was wearing yellow elkskin gloves. Praise be the elk mother who gave the man's hands warmth that evening. The man, the middle-aged man, he took off his gloves. He removed his cell phone from his pocket. He typed this message to the woman who bore his children. It was a text message because... Is there a because without justification? Is there a because that does not justify itself? I will forgo the because for now. It will be good enough for now to say that we all understand the suffering that comes with all form. Here is the text exchange as it was recorded. Middle-aged man. Could I stop by and say hi? I realized at Thanksgiving that we are still a family, and I'd love, even if just for a moment, to hear how your life is going. Woman. I'm not really sure I'm looking for a friendship with you. I want for the kids to have a good relationship with you, but I especially don't enjoy your current mood state. Too manic for me. Middle-aged man. I understand. Thank you for your honesty. I wish you well. End draft. Again? Already? Just when the veil is torn between that which is written and that which can't be wrote? Is this what Jesus meant when he said, just as Socrates said before him, I never wrote a book, my dude? Who was it that said the death of the author is where the reader finds her true birth? I can't find his name, but isn't that the point? Dave and Eileen and Dave, I choose to share with you today. I say yes to whatever support can be offered. I accept the gift of life and all that I have already received. I present myself to you as the one who crucified the Christ. I present myself to you as the Christ who was crucified. I present myself to you as the risen Christ. I present to you the one who holds the suffering in the left and the joy in the right. The one who holds the form which cannot be held. I present to you today the impossible form, the resurrection incarnate, and the image of the impossibly humbled prodigal. Dare I say son? Yes, a son of God who does not have his shit together. Yes, that is what must be said as I make peace, as I find acceptance. Yes, that is what I must make peace with today. I must say yes to both and. Dare I say daughter? Dare I say surrender my life for the birth of the daughter? Emma Kate, pure healing, the name that cannot be spoken. The name of my youngest, the one who is left fatherless. The one who watches her earthly father struggle to hold a form that cannot be held. A form that this earthly father can no longer hold. Bear witness to this, Dave and Eileen. Witness that which must be seen, but that which demands no witness. Because, there's that word again, the because. I'm going to go ahead and use it this time. Because that which transcends all our forms makes no demands for our attention. That which demands no attention will hang on a tree willingly. Is that how the story goes? I leave the story to you. The story that demands no witness. The story that only attracts. Just as the heavenly bodies attract one another, that which cannot be held by any form, but that which I choose to surrender to today. The same surrender that a seed which falls into the ground knows. The seed knows it intimately, as its death brings forth a great tree. That type of natural surrender that can only be witnessed in this draftiness, in this depth of transparency where form becomes flow. I make peace with this gift that is being offered. When do I press send? The button presents itself to me now, and so I leave you.